Hi everybody and welcome back to another episode of GTA Fancast with me, Gully, on the Wolves Fancast YouTube channel. What are we worried about, guys? Excellent 2-1 victory over Chelsea, which I'll be reviewing with you with my trusty tactics board as usual. I'll be looking at a little bit of a comparison between the two systems that we played against Aston Villa and against Chelsea, and how we reverted to type really, and it became a little bit more comfortable within a tried and trusted system, and subsequently overcame Frank Lampard's Chelsea with an excellent victory. So thinking about the key difference between playing with a back four versus a back five, I think a lot of talk was made of the left-hand channel of Chelsea getting a lot of joy, having a lot of touches in that space. And if you have a look at their heat map, it's very obvious that a lot of their play was concentrated into that area. That wasn't necessarily them targeting us, I don't think. Obviously, Semedo's had a little bit of a tough time down there, and a lot of fans berating him for some of his performances, and he gave away a penalty against Villa, which cost us in the end. But I think playing with this back five just allows us to engage teams a little bit higher up the pitch. If you think about the fact that, you know, Semedo's got Gully tucked inside him, he can go out and press the wide forward straight away. If you've got Dendoncker supporting as well, he can even go and press the fullback if he really wants to. But that all happens a lot quicker and a lot sharper than if we had, to take one player out of the back line. Semedo tucked in a lot more narrow as part of a back four. That ball can go into the wider forward. He's got another 10-15 yards to make up just to go out and engage them, which gives them plenty of time to go and actually build play, get into this part of the pitch, which, if you have a look at the interceptions that we made against Villa, is where Villa were getting pretty much a lot more joy. And it's a perception, I think, that we were shaky just because teams are getting a bit closer to goal before we actually start making defensive actions. But I think it just straight away makes us look a little bit more solid. Giroud's goal was the only shot on target that they had up until that point. Otherwise, it was just set pieces that we conceded chances from. And straight away, you can see Semedo was a lot more comfortable. If I bring kind of Cody back into that position that he likes to take up, like I say, a lot closer to the wide man. And you can see straight away when I flash up the interceptions that we had against Chelsea, much higher up the pitch, and we looked a lot more solid for it. Now, I was thinking about Wolves as an attacking force. I think it's worth pointing out that when you think about what are our strengths in attacking areas, and I think rather than being a tippy-tappy kind of passing football team, what we look to do is really take men on, take players out of the game that way, and then head towards goal. If you think about, obviously, the real strength of the players like Podence, Neto, Traore, they kind of define the way we go forward. When we play with a back four, Traore was obviously kind of shoehorned out wide by Nuno, and a lot of our play was funneled in that direction. If you think about where we were looking to dribble past people during the Villa game, I flashed that up. Traore played very wide, very kind of hugging the touchline, and a lot of our dribbles as a result were focused into that kind of part of the pitch. Podence was really the key man in this regard against Chelsea, because I think ostensibly he's a dribbler rather than a passer of the ball from that number 10 position. He's looking to go past people rather than play little through balls and things. So what you found again in the Chelsea game, if you have a look at our take-ons over the course of the 90 minutes against Chelsea, a lot more central focus. The wing backs weren't really encouraged to go beyond into these kind of parts of the pitch. They get to about here, and then it was all about trying to play with the guys that were in front of them, like Silva, like Podence, Neto, Traore when he came on, looking to play inside and be a bit more threatening towards the centre of the pitch and in front of the opposition's 18-yard box. And I think that's a little bit more dangerous than maybe going out wide and putting crosses. And you can see straight away that if I flash up how many crosses we put into the box, nowhere near the amount of crosses that were being played against Aston Villa, and also not near the byline really. We were crossing from slightly deeper positions than we would ordinarily. If you think about Neto's winning goal as well, absolute, real good example of where we want our players picking up the ball and running in this kind of shape, because normally against Villa, he was quite wide, getting into this part of the pitch. He set up a chance for Dendoncker with that little Rabona cross from a wide area, having dribbled into that space. But if you think about the second goal, his win out against Chelsea, more kind of this channel, a little bit more central, where he's able to go run at a defender and go for goal rather than being forced and funneled into that wider position. The real point that I took from the game against Chelsea, a lot is made of Wolves and our approach from one half to another. The first half we don't do anything, second half we do. A lot of pundits are kind of scratching their heads as to why that is the case, what's the point in it, is it even a tactic, or does it just happen as a coincidence? And I think there are examples to prove that it is the case, that this is very much a ploy from Nuno. And what I've pulled out from the stats that I've got and the graphics that I've got is that when you think about Wolves in the first half versus Chelsea, a lot of play coming into this kind of area. I think if you take Neto into this kind of part of the pitch, he had the ball a couple of times down this channel, good opportunities to cross, but realistically you had Fabio Silva and maybe Podence in and around the box, not really busting a gut to get in there. Semedo certainly wasn't trying to get in at the back post or anything. Dendoncker wasn't being asked to get into the box like he had been when we were playing with our back four. So therefore, he kind of just goes backwards. We go back to base, back to home, a bit of comfort, bit of stale possession. Maybe play the ball forward again. If the ball breaks down, fine. If something else comes of it, okay. It's like, we're doing it more in kind of hope of doing something rather than expectation. And I think that's very much the way we look to approach the game. If something good came of it, fantastic. Just as an example, Cody bursting forward, getting the ball off Giroud and having that shot from 30 yards. If that goes in, fantastic. Absolute bonus, I think. Neto's volley from the edge of the box after that nice little play they had in this part of the pitch with Podence and Silva. Another fantastic bonus if it goes in. If not, we're quite comfortable. So thinking about that and just showing you how it seems to manifest itself, if I show you how many backwards passes we played against Chelsea in the first half to begin with, you can see straight away quite long distances, quite obvious moves to get the ball back towards a more kind of safe area of the pitch to then play forward. And if we lose it, we lose it. I think it is quite obvious there that the ambition wasn't necessarily there to go out and really hurt Chelsea. And we had a pretty solid half as a result. Now, if I have a look at how we did in the second half from that perspective, still looking at backwards passes, a lot of it is, well, for a start, there's far less occurrences of it. I think there's something like 46 passes or something like that, where we'd actually played the ball backwards, and also much shorter. So what that tells me is that everyone's playing in a lot closer proximity, and in order to then progress the ball forward, rather than getting this ball back into Marcel. I think there was a really good example of it where Nelson Semedo had, when he ran in on goal and should have had a shot. We've got the ball out of here with Semedo. Traore's out there with him as well, and Podence. A few Chelsea players obviously out there. Now, Podence picked up the ball, I think, in this kind of position, and he's got a nice easy ball on here into Gully, into Cody, and probably if it was first half, he would have played it. But instead, he plays it into Semedo, plays a nice little 1-2 with him, picks up the ball back here, then gets it into Traore, and then we're in. Semedo makes that run inside the full-back. Traore plays it into him, and we have a really good chance to score a goal. That would never have happened in the first half. I think that was a really good example of how there's a lot more intent and a lot more ambition about the team when we play later on in games. When I think about the podcast that Harry Burgoyne featured on recently, I think it was after the Liverpool game, and he spoke of something really interesting where he'd obviously been a part of the setup under Nuno when we won the championship, and his tactic is to take the game long, wear a team down, make sure, if they have to make a substitution, they're bringing on their second choice striker for their first choice, or the second choice midfielder, second choice winger. Then naturally there's a drop off in performance level straight away there, just because they haven't found a way through us, or they're getting tired just because we're wearing them down with possession, switches of play, etc. Now in the championship we tended to win games just because of our sense of quality. Chelsea were visibly quite tired, I think, in the second half, just because they had to work hard to really work opportunities, and they weren't even successful in doing that. And that's when we came into our own in the last half an hour and really started to hammer them in that last half an hour. And really went straight down to Nuno's kind of textbook managing Wolves since that we've seen over the last 3 years. just to wrap up, I think it's going to be interesting going into the game against Burnley on Monday night, just because we've obviously gone back to basics in the sense that played with a back three, won a game against Chelsea, we've beaten Arsenal with a back four, we've had a little bit of negative results against Liverpool and Villa, particularly the Liverpool game, a really poor performance, the Villa game, slight misfortune, but also not really hitting the heights that we expect to as well, and trying to turn over a team like Villa. But there's clearly an option to revert back to the four again against Burnley. I don't know if this is the way to go to beat Burnley. It's going to be an interesting one away from home. We're going to have to take the initiative. I think that's how you have to play against Burnley. They're happy to kind of allow teams to do that. So, Nuno's got a decision to make. Does he go back to the four where we were creating some chances? There are some injury, I think, concerns as well, where Dendonker's gone off at half-time, ably deputised by Otasawi. Obviously, who played, I think, had a really, really good game. Bolly pulled up with a bit of a hamstring strain, but he seemed to play out the game as well. Traore picked up a knock. I'll be surprised if he doesn't have some kind of ill effects after that, despite having played out the rest of the 90 minutes as well. So, there are a few concerns there, and that could end up dictating the selection policy for Nuno as well. But he's got a decision to make, and the ability to flex between the two systems and still have success is a good sign for us. We have to be more unpredictable, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he comes up with against Burnley. But let me know what you guys think, guys, and we'll see how we get on.